thank you so much for attending the Marketing for Cultural and Tourism Institutions. This webinar and in-person program is brought to you by the Florida Association of Museums and the Tallahassee Museum. We thank you so much for having us in person here and hosting us. I need to announce that this is being live casting and is being recorded as well. For those of you who are on the webinar, we will offer you the opportunity to ask questions when we get to that point. You can just type them into the answer box on the bottom right of your screen, and we will hold those questions. So just go ahead and type those in throughout. Just a short overview of the agenda today. The Florida Association of Museums is going to give you an overview of what we're doing currently with advocacy and other things. Then we're going to have a program from Visit Florida on social media strategies. Visit Tallahassee is here to talk about advocacy with Convention and Visitors Bureaus and how to maximize those relationships. We'll take a short break followed by marketing strategies from the perspective of both large to medium institutions and those with smaller budgets. I'm going to give you some information about our speakers. Actually, first of all, our museum team is Linda Horton, who's our executive director. My name is Carmen Godwin. I'm the program manager. And then Robin Bauer-Kilgo is our special projects manager. For those of you on the webinar, she is the person who is moderating with you. And then today's speakers before the break are from Visit Florida, Stephen Kubiak, the social media manager, and Kate Chunka, the senior manager, industry relations. They're going to be presenting on social media. And then Kerri Post, the executive director for Visit Tallahassee. And then after the break, we have our museum professionals, Amber O'Connell, the director of marketing and membership for the Tallahassee Museum, who is going to be focusing on large and medium institution strategies. And then Anissa Ford, the education director of Gadsden Arts Center, who will be focusing on those with small budgets. And those of us who've worked in small museums know that when you are in a small museum, you often take on many different hats and roles. So it will be interesting to have that perspective as well today. I'm going to pass the mic over to Linda Horton, executive director, Florida Association of Museums, to talk about current activities.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming today. And welcome to the Tallahassee Museum. For those that aren't from Tallahassee, this is one of our great institutions, but we have several others, so thanks for coming. I'm just going to talk for real briefly about what FAM's doing right now. And as you know, it's legislative session, and we're here for Tourism Day. We actually attended Museum Advocacy Day in D.C. 2 weeks ago, and went and met with our Congress people, not our congressmen and women, and it was interesting. It was a great 2 days of training. The first day, kind of like we do with Tourism Day, and then the second day we did all of our hill visits. We had some really good meetings. There's a lot of, as I'm sure you can imagine, uncertainty on the federal level, but we just kept it positive, talked about the impact of museums, and went as a group, and it was a lot of fun. We spent a good day talking to our different elected officials. And so we're doing the same thing here in Tallahassee over the next couple of days. And when we do our visits tomorrow afternoon, we'll talk about museums and the impact and how we make people's lives better. We serve our children and do all types of wonderful things, provide programs like this week is spring break here. So the museum has kids here that are being hosted because their parents had to go to work and they needed a place to stay. So it just shows all the great tie-ins with museums. I encourage you, if you can, to attend the annual conference, which is September the 17th through the 20th in Naples. This year's theme is Valuable to Vital, the Path to 2050. We're taking proposals. We'll love to take proposals. They're online. The guidelines are online. They're easy to fill out. We'll help you. And also to just stay up to date on upcoming workshops, because we're trying to do regular educational workshops that are done around the state so that you don't have to travel as far So if we're there for a board meeting or for something else, we try to tie that in with a workshop, with something educational. And we also try to always offer them as a webinar so that we can get the people that can't necessarily come in person. And as always, we do a quarterly newsletter. We do regular e-blasts. If you're a member and you're not getting my stuff, you need to check your spam, or you need to email me and make sure I have your right email address, because we do a lot of our stuff through Constant Contact, and sometimes it does go through the spam filter. So just let us know if you're not getting stuff, and we appreciate everybody. We could not exist without the support of our members. So thank you for being here, and I think I'm done.
Next up, we have Visit Florida, Stephen Kubiak.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen Kubiak. I'm the social media manager at Visit Florida. Just really excited to be here at the Tallahassee Museum today. I grew up in Tallahassee, so I remember this. It will always be known as the Junior Museum to me, and it's just a fantastic place. I brought my kids here. I have 3 kids. We've been several times, and I promise Russell didn't pay me in museum store credit to say that, but just really wonderful to be here and to speak about social media today. So just a little bit about me. Surprisingly, these are both the same person. So I started out my professional career actually as an aerial gunner on a AC-130 Spectre gunship in the Air Force. From there, went to Florida State, got my degree in English. Then after that, I ended up in social media somehow, and worked for WCTV, our local CBS affiliate, for 2 years as their lead internet producer, and I've been with Visit Florida for almost 4 years now, and that's me being Facebook there for Halloween. So, but you know, what's the connection between the two? How did I get from one to another? Well, it's tourism. I really love tourism, and I love expressing that and communicating that with others. I've lived in Florida all my life. Even when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed at Hobart Field in Gadsden. So Florida has kind of been my life, and it's been my pleasure and honor to really showcase that on social media and tell our story. So here's a little bit of the agenda. Out of the 200 slides that I have, we're going to, I can't do 200 slides. Okay. Here's a look at what we're going to talk about today. Just briefly, it won't be taking that long. General tips about social media. Then we'll get into some of the individual platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. There are obviously other ones out there, but those are kind of the core 5 that we utilize. And then Visit Florida social media and partner programs we'll go over. Happy to take questions. Just wait till the end, and I'll be happy to answer. I can wait around and answer things for you all. So general tips: set aside time for social. Even if you don't have much of a marketing budget, social media is one of the things that you can do where you're using just your time instead of your money. Sure, there's paid opportunities on social, but there's a lot organically that you can do. And while it's easier to manage social media from your desktop, your phone really is a multimedia tool. You can take photos from it, you can go live with it, you can post from it. In fact, all of our Instagram is done from that phone right there. And it's really a versatile tool that you can do anything you want. You know, if you're here at the museum, you just go out and take something. It's as easy as that sometimes. Be prepared to evolve. What worked last year, what worked a month ago, a day ago, might not work the same way today. You just never know with the changes that they're making, whether it's an algorithm to Facebook, Facebook Live comes along, you just never know where social is going to go. Look at Vine, for instance. Yes, Vine comes out as a platform, 6 seconds of the video. This is great. What can we do with 6 seconds? Well, then Instagram comes out with Instagram video. Well, now you get 15 seconds. Oh, now it's a minute of time. Oh, now Vine's not a platform anymore. So you have to really stay on top of it if you're going to, stick with a platform and just figure out what works for you. There might be new platforms too, like Snapchat, that you might want to try, but make sure before you get into it, it's something that your audience would either be interested in or your audience is even on. Snapchat, we have an account, but it's not one of those things that our audience is really on, so we don't really use it that much. It also uses a lot more time because when you use it, that message is gone after a certain amount of time, so the time that it takes to create the content, we have to factor that in. And the reason being is I'm the only one that does our organic social, so I stay pretty busy. Don't give social to the intern. Just because they're young and they have an Instagram account doesn't mean they should be in charge of social media. Now, if they're, hopefully I'm not offending anybody there, but really what it comes to with social media is being a great communicator, not a great speaker. So if I'm not a great speaker, don't judge me on my social media abilities because of that. But they need to be able to, it needs to be somebody that handles your social media, somebody that can edit very quickly, check their grammar, just listen to what's going on in the world. There's a lot of current event things that you can jump on, which we'll kind of get into. The V word, viral. Don't expect all of your content to go viral. Don't try to strive to make it to go viral. Some brands do, agencies do, but just try to put out good content, and you never know what will come from that. One of the examples is we just had a video last week of the Seacrest Wolf Preserve. Organically, we had 1.3 million people that saw that video with completed video times was 220,000 views on it. So, I mean, we had some really great engagement on that. And we didn't put any money behind it, but it was just a great piece of content. But beware social media experts. You know, I feel like people all the time, hey, I can help you increase your followers. I can help you do this and that. And they'll, you know, say lots of fancy words to you and acronyms, but they might not be an expert. So vet them, see what they've done in the past, but also see what their ideas are for the future of social media. So don't just pick up anybody because they're able to kind of sell you on something. So really be sure you know who you're working with. And then pick the platforms that are right for your brand. If your brand is one that is putting out a lot of photos, Instagram, naturally you want to be on there. If you're putting out a lot of videos, Facebook, you got to be on there, and I'm sure you are. And YouTube. YouTube's a huge channel that you need to be on. I promise there's more photos coming out. That was just a long slog there. So let's get into Facebook. We'll talk about utilizing Facebook Live, using visuals, post often, the frequency that you're posting, the length of your post, the best days to post, the best times to post, and some scheduling tools. So utilizing Facebook Live. Facebook Live, if you all haven't used it before, gives you the ability to produce live produced video on Facebook. So you're able to basically be your own television producer and put out content. Here are two examples of some things that we've done. We've kind of dabbled with Facebook Live. On the left here, we have a video of St. Augustine that we did right after Hurricane Matthew to show that they were St. Augustine was open for business. We had a freelance team go out, and they interviewed people in different attractions in St. Augustine and just let the world know that, hey, this is what's going on. And with me being in the office while we had our team producing the video, I could reach out to people and say, hey, this is what's going on right now. Here's a link for more information. And, you know, people would ask, well, is it, you know, I heard they got hit by a hurricane. Well, this is live. And when we explain that to people, they're really excited about that. And then on the other side there, you have a photo of Panama City Beach, which doesn't do it justice there. But we had just rolled a camera on a tripod or a iPhone and just got the waves of the natural sound. And people ate that stuff up. There was nothing, you know, nothing produced about it. It was just simply, this is what's going on. And people really enjoyed that. So really think if that's something that's would work for your brand, would work for your organization, and I would recommend trying it. Just do a test. If nothing else, create a dummy account, and I do that all the time, and just test it. Play around with it and get comfortable with it. And then just be sure, if you're going to do it, make sure you have a good Wi-Fi signal. Learned about that on the beach, and you know, the equipment that you're using. The iPhone, even though it's a phone, its microphone is awful. I'm sure you know that. So you might need to get an extra microphone, and they don't cost that much. So something to think about. Using visuals. Visuals, you got to use them. You don't want to have just a text post. You want to have a little bit of content. If nothing else, have something generic there. Anything with visuals has 87% interaction rate higher than just text, and that's from Facebook. And like I said, you can get use it whenever possible, and you can get as advanced as you want. You can get something as advanced as on the far right there, where you have a 360 video, one that we produced in the keys, or on the far left, you can have something like a piece of user-generated content, which we'll get to a little bit more in depth. But all of that was, it's kind of hard to see the numbers there, but all of that was organic. We didn't put any money towards it. I'm really cheap in my personal life, and I'm cheap when it comes to social media, so try not to spend money when I don't have to. I leave that to our advertising team. But like I said, visuals and something that'll resonate with your audience is where you want to go. Post often. For Visit Florida, we post usually about once a day, no more than that, and so once a day and 7 days a week. So even on the weekends, I'll post there, and just content that's relevant to the audience organically. There's some things like a beat shot like this that it really resonates with them. If it was something on golf, well, our audience doesn't resonate as much with that, so we have to be careful about what kind of content we're posting there. Now, obviously, Florida, we cover a lot of areas when we're talking about tourism, so we try to find the right channel for what works the best. And also think when you're talking visuals, people are kind of skimming their news feeds. So again, going back to the visuals, use something bright there. Facebook, the best times to post. This screenshot is actually in the Insights page. Insights, post, and then when your fans are online, and that gives you an idea of when your fans are on average online. So that shows you that most of ours between 8 and 9 p.m. there. But what's interesting, usually we'll still post at 9 in the morning, and that seems to be a good time because it slowly, as more and more people join, the more and more people will see our content. And there's no secret to a posting time. Obviously, don't post at 2 in the morning because not a lot of your audience is going to be there. But just from Facebook here, the best days of the work week to post are Thursday and Friday, but the greatest engagement is over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Wednesday is the worst day to post, with interaction below the average of other days. Usually the best time to post, between 1 and 4, and 4 being the best hour. Now, some of the, again, these numbers come from Facebook. I haven't found these to necessarily work for us, but jot them down, try those times, experiment. Experiment's a huge part of social media. As long as you're not posting something outrageous, experiment. It's fine to do. Scheduling tools. Some folks use Hootsuite. That's a big one that can do Twitter and Facebook. I actually, for scheduling tools, prefer just to use the native platform in Facebook. That way, so when I have something like a video, I can add all my copy that I want in there, the video title. We're doing captions now, so I can add a caption. Cross-posting there is where you can add it to other pages. So we have Welcome Center pages or our Share a Little Sunshine brand. Then video tags. If this is a museum, Florida, Tallahassee, certain keywords like that, I can add that there. So I like to just publish in the native platform. Twitter, so we're going to go over using hashtags. Again, some of this stuff you may already know. This is just very broad, general things here. Using hashtags, addressing questions, comments, concerns, tweeting often, using visuals. Should have taken out show examples because I'm going to show you some examples. Find a Twitter chat and scheduling tools. So questions, comments, and concerns. Oh, use hashtags. So I skipped one here. Hashtags are a must on Twitter. So, it's a great way to see what people are talking about, what people are doing. These are all examples of things that we found people were using, like hashtag spring in 5 words, National Frozen Food Day, Friday Feeling, and just kind of having fun with those. If your brand is a fun brand where you can add that stuff, Florida obviously is in general, very fun brand, so we can use some of these things, but just use hashtags when it makes sense. Now, the flip side of that is when you're using hashtags, check on why they're trending. DiGiorno got into trouble a couple of years ago because they used a hashtag that was related to abuse, and they used it in a playful way, and they got in the news about that. That's the kind of viral you don't want to get. So just be aware of what you're posting there. Visit Florida, you'll see Love FL in most of those tweets too. That's the main hashtag that we use, and we certainly encourage you to use that content or use that hashtag. Twitter questions, comments, and concerns. Interact with your audience out there. So we had the University of Florida. As much as it pains me that I had to interact with them, I did because it's my job. Interact with people. So any questions that people have, address them as quickly as you can. Same thing with comments. Concerns, address that too. You'll get some of that. If it's spam, you might have to escalate to somebody to say, hey, what do we need to do about this? Or if you need to figure out the time when you need to take that offline and address it directly over email. And while Visit Florida doesn't have too many questions that we get, we may tag one of you all in a post. So it might be something in Orlando. So we may tag the DMO Visit Orlando to say, hey, they might have some better ideas on what you should do or where to go eat or something like that. Tweet often. So this is a screenshot of all the scheduled tweets that I had between the February 19th through 25th. So it's a lot of tweets. You don't have to put out that many, but we're covering the whole state. So there's a lot of different things that we have to talk about. But just keep your channel active. When you're starting out, just try once a day, and then you can go to maybe 3. But it's also a place where if you don't think it'd be strong enough for, if you don't think the post would be strong enough for Facebook, put it on Twitter. We'll put just about anything on Twitter because there will be an audience there for it. Let's see. Again, same thing with Facebook, using visuals. Remember this guy? So that huge alligator that they had in Polk County, knowing that photo would get a lot of eyeballs on that, using visuals there. And then upcoming events will make custom graphics there that don't take very long to do. I mean, some of these things I do in Paint. I keep it really simple, save money where I can. But having visuals will give you generally 150% increase in engagement on your post. And with Visit Florida, sometimes we do text, but it almost always has a visual element, any kind of tweet that we put out. Find a Twitter chat. So in fact, what a great time to talk about this. Visit Florida will be having a spring break in Florida Twitter chat tomorrow. So if you have a chance or have your people back home, please have them participate with us. But if it's appropriate for your brand, participate in a Twitter chat. There's a lot of them out there. Visit Florida, we typically participate in. Expedia has a Twitter chat. I believe it's either 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 every week on Wednesday. And you get huge exposure. Their chat trends because so many people use it. So that's a big one that we join. But again, Visit Florida, we have the FL Travel chat. You can my email will be up there, so you can email me if you're not on our list, and make sure we can get you those emails when we have a chat. But those, we usually have 11 of those a year, once a month, taking off December as people travel. And then we have Visit Wakulla there on the right, just participating in one of the chats there. So, and it's free, just join. So it's definitely encourage you to do that. Scheduling tools. Twitter, I definitely do use some third-party scheduling tools there. So we've got Hootsuite is a big one. There is a free option for that one, and TweetDeck, that's also free. Notice a lot of free. There's a lot of free things I like to use. But just an example of that's Hootsuite right there, and just kind of that's actually small. Usually I have like 8 columns open with several other tabs there. But that's, again, just to show you all the different things that are kind of going on. But if you are going to schedule, be sure to take a look at, only 5 minutes, I gotta get going. All right, let's get through this. Instagram, videos, photos, or both. Post often, but don't post just to post. Your community and user-generated content. Some accounts use just video. Some accounts use photos. Try out different things, see what works for you. We use both, and both do pretty well. Post often. We usually post once a day. I wouldn't post too much more than that, maybe twice a day. Yeah, we're going to go through this quick. create a community. All of their content, almost all the content, I'd say 80% on Visit Florida is user-generated content. So we're using other people's content with permission and posting it in an editorial way on our account to create content. We built a huge community, so that's just some of the thank yous from Visit Florida for sharing the photo. Use UGC, again, that's just using somebody's photo, so if they tag you in a photo on Instagram, ask them if you can use it. A lot of times they're gonna, I've had no one say no to me in the 3 years that we've been pulling content that way. And like I said, 80% of our account's gonna be UGC. YouTube and Google, adding cards to your videos, captions, and custom thumbnails. YouTube is so important because Google owns it, and any content you're putting on YouTube, if it's tagged the right way, is going to pull up in search results. So here's just an example of 2 of our lobstering videos popping up on YouTube. Adding cards to your photos. So you have the ability to link back to your website or another piece of content on your video. So when you're publishing and you go into edit your video, add a card, link it back to your website or a piece of relevant content. And we've had a lot of people come through the website. Actually, people that stay on visitflorida.com the longest go through using a YouTube card. Captions. Did I miss one there? No. Captions. Add captions. 80% of users are watching video without sound, so captions, definitely want to add those to your videos. You can do that now through YouTube. You can pay, it's a very small fee to get those done. They have some automatic ones. They're not so good yet. I'm sure they'll get better. And then if you look in the top corner there, there's one of the cards that I was telling you about that you can click on for more information. Custom thumbnails. When you upload a video, you might not get the exact photo you want as much as that, that guy in the middle really probably wouldn't sell the video. So I took a screenshot out of the video and used that as kind of the lead photo, and you see all the engagement increase dramatically that way. Pinterest. Let me go back to by the numbers, audience, creating rich pins, and seeing what's out there. So rich content. So great way to. Did I miss the numbers? I don't have the numbers anymore. A lot of people don't talk about Pinterest, but Pinterest is still very relevant. It still has 150 million users a month. It's huge. You still want to use it. And going into creating rich content, so not necessarily just a photo, but adding different elements to it. So going through a graphic software and creating rich elements like that can certainly help with engagement. That Walt Disney World one, 820 pins, that's huge. What's out there? Search for Florida museums, see what's out there. You got the Dali Museum in there. Was it the Thule collection I think I've seen there? Look and see what's out there. There might be something that you want to pin right there. And here's some of our social numbers. YouTube minutes. Well, that's how huge it is. 22.8 million minutes of video watched in 2016. That's somebody sitting in a room watching our content for like 43 years. It's huge. Engage visitors via Visit Florida Social, like I said, using #LoveFL. Our Twitter chats, like we're having tomorrow. Submitting a social media post for consideration. That's something that marketing partners can do. And if we run out of time, we can chat with you about that. Kate and I can. And then learning more about that, you can go to visitflorida.org/social. And here's just some examples of some partners that have submitted some posts with us. So again, great visuals, some links back to their content, and some key takeaways. Again, find the channels that work for you, stick with them, be sure to evolve and see what's new, constantly seeing what's going on with those. Engaging your audience. Find what content works for engaging your audience and keep at it, but still experiment. And then participate with Visit Florida on social. Participate with me. So please tag us in your content. But remember, there's only one person. So if I don't get to you, I'll try to eventually. So, and then our contact information. So like I said, social media manager, and then Kate Chunka here, our senior industry relations manager. And that should be it. Yes? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, make some notes on questions that you have on social media, and we can ask Stephen about those at the end during the Q&A session. Now I'd like to ask Kerri Post to come up and talk about the CVBs and how we can build better relationships with them.
I'm going to talk a little bit, many of you in this room probably already know, but it can get really confusing about what exactly is a CVB or a DMO as they're now called. And then talk a little bit about some of the opportunities now that I've come back. I was kidding earlier. I said I picked a fine time to come back into the tourism industry. But clearly, I mean, that's been my passion, my career, going back to Pinellas County and Hillsborough County days. So I'm delighted to be back, and having worked in with the museum realm as well, I see there's just a lot of opportunities, again, from my perspective now. Talk a little bit about advocacy. I kind of did it kind of both ways, both with your leaders, I think now more than ever. Advocacy and leadership education is very, very important. And again, working with your DMO as well in that role. So what is a CVB? I mean, that is a Convention and Visitors Bureau. You hear that a lot. But then there's also some counties around the state that they call themselves a VCB, and that is a Visitor and Convention Bureau. And that's because not all counties have a convention center or really go after the meetings market, so people do that. But really kind of now, I'd say probably really in the last probably 5-6 years, you now hear more about destination marketing organizations. That is an international term. How many of you all have heard that used pretty well? Good. So I'm just going to say it is getting out there. It is getting traction. There are still a number of organizations that have the CVB or VCB in their moniker. But what is interesting, and that's we're kind of seeing some of that now, is this is created anytime a county, I believe, and Melinda, you may have to correct me, I think 65 of Florida's 67 counties collect the bed tax. And when they do, they have a Florida statute allows them to get it set up. They're typically run two ways. They're either a division of county government or they're a nonprofit that has a contract with the county government. So they can be run, I mean, just kind of like some of the things, they can be set up all different ways. We in Leon County, we're a division of county government. There are a number of them around the state, say Hillsborough, for example. They are a nonprofit, and there's reasons and advantages and disadvantages to both. But again, it just depends on how the county set it up. What's interesting about Tallahassee is it was a nonprofit when it was created, and in 2009 it converted and went back to the county. And so again, with that, it's very different. We have a lot of the procurement rules. You know, so there's a lot more hoops to go through for government. You don't have the flexibility that you do as a nonprofit, but again, there's pros and cons to both, depending on the setup. So as you all in here, I'm sure well know, the primary objective is regenerating the bed tax, and that is so we want to get people to come and stay in paid lodging, and because that is the trigger. Each county offers it can get up to, and some if they get really high, it can get to like 7.5%, which is just crazy. But there's several different designations, but most counties it's typically about 5 for more populated. Again, if it's more rural, it can be a 3%. Again, there's high impact tourism counties like Miami and Orlando that they get to add on at least 6 cents. You know, they add on another one, and then sometimes you can have special designations within that. It's all in the Florida statute, so they're all a little bit different. But again, when people come and they stay, that's how they generate the bed tax money to go into marketing the destination, but also a lot of grant programs. I know for us here in Leon County, I think we have the highest percentage of any county in the state that we collect 5 cents, and 1.25 goes to our cultural organization. So that's 25% of our collections goes specifically to promote culture and arts. And that's more than Sarasota, Palm Beach. So again, I mean, we have a big commitment to that here, but again, each county can kind of designate it differently. But the goal is to get people saying there's a variety of different ways to do that. How we reach them, And it's the same for, I mean, probably more so in a DMO for us to do more in market, whereas Visit Florida's role is more in the pre-planning when they're still in the, you know, where are they going to go for vacation? You know, they're thinking they're in the consideration set. And so that's where advertising, you want to be out there. You want these great, compelling images out there speaking to you on social media. You go, God, I really haven't been to Florida. Oh, I want to go there. So we do the same thing on our website. Again, we want to be in the consideration set when someone's making a choice of where they're going to go. But then we also want to service them in market, because for us, there's opportunity to get our visitors that are here to stay longer, to stay an extra day, or to come back again for another reason. They can come back sooner. So we have a couple different approaches to that. Again, and our visitors typically fall in 3 categories. It's probably the same in all of your counties. The vast majority, it'll vary slightly among each county, they stay in the paid lodging. So those are your hotels, et cetera, resorts. A very important percentage, and it's about 30% here in Leon County, that they visit and stay with friends and family. So that's where there's an opportunity, too, to educate your residents, because they're essentially ambassadors for the destination. So if you got something new and cool, say the Tallahassee Museum, you know, that they want even the residents to come out to the tree-to-tree, because they know when they have friends come here, they're like, God, we got to go do the tree-to-tree. You know, so there is an opportunity to educate, you know, the residents and then day trippers, which again, they don't spend as much, but they're important too and can come back more often. For us, and Stephen touched on it clearly a little bit, social media and content is really king. I mean, that's where so much, and because we all want that kind of third party, oh, that looks really cool, you know, oh, so-and-so did this, you know, and I saw it on Facebook and et cetera. So we're exactly the same. We're just kind of the microcosm of Visit Florida, where we market a county. I can get my arms around that, you know, whereas it's hard to get your arms around the entire state of Florida. And so the website is very much a primary tool for us. The same with social media. Some destinations utilize apps. So again, I think there's opportunities too, and I'll get into that in a second, for you all, if your destination has an app, to make sure, not only look at, you know, make sure you're participating, but how are you, again, visuals are very, very powerful. Advertising, paid advertising, digital advertising, again, our goal, and one of the things, since I've been here now in this role for a little more than 6 months, is broadening the narrative on Tallahassee. Because for the longest time we've been known as this kind of sleepy little town, and we're not. You know, I mean, we're different and we're proud of who we are, but there's a whole lot of real energy and vibe and arts and culture and craft brewing, and a lot of really cool stuff that's going on here. And so we need to have the visuals through all of our advertising, our website, our social, that really shows that. And the visitor services, how we service groups, the visitor centers, visuals of the visitor guide, people are still ordering those visitor guides. I mean, it is just, they are all online, but there's a group that likes that print. So again, for us, those are all of our primary, you know, kind of platforms on how we reach them. For museums, and I am doing it here, one of the things that we were woefully shy of is images, content on the arts and culture of the museum properties at the DMO. We had some of those where we had pictures of kids at Mission San Luis that I bet they're in college now. I mean, we've been using the same image over and over and over again, you know. And so we always, and again, this is where the user-generated content's great on social, because again, through everything that we're doing, the content is really king. So make sure you're sharing all the cool stuff that you all are doing in your museums. Share it with your destination marketing organizations. Provide them images, short videos. Because, yeah, you could say, well, they should know what we're doing. But they got a lot going on. It helps that if you've got some special going on, to either tag them, or literally, we have some that, like, I came on, like, really trying to provide more content on arts and culture, and said, really doing an outreach and say, we need images. Write an article that we can put on our website, just a small little post, you know, or a small little piece. Give us some actual posts. You know, what is your message? We want to convey your message. So literally, some just literally send us, whether it's events, whether it's museums, you know, here's an image you can use, or if they have a video, they link it to their YouTube, so we've got that. but truly, whatever you can provide, and honestly, with a destination marketing organization, the easier you make it for them to then whether they're reposting it or reusing it, the more exposure for you all. So I really, no matter what county you're in, make sure you are providing your content consistently to your DMO. Because that way, say people are looking at St. Pete Clearwater's Instagram, Vinny, I hope they're seeing all kinds of stuff, you know, because again, that's because it's the DMO's job to, you know, provide visibility for the destination. So when people are on these accounts, they're looking and they'll go, God, you know, when I'm there, I really want to go there. You know, so again, the content is really key, and that's just, you're already creating it for your promotion anyway. So just make sure you're sharing it with your DMO and Visit Florida. We're kind of like two-tiered, you know, you got your local folks whose job it is to market the destination, and then you have your state folks whose job it is to market the destination. Excuse me. So collaborate and connect. I've always been a big person on product development, and as a marketer, it makes it easy when there's a product to actually market. Like, it's great. We have a lot of great museums here, but the Department of State, and God bless them, I was happy that they did this. They came and sat down with us a couple weeks ago and said they had created this March of Museums, which was basically what they did was create this gives us a product to market that combined all of the museums for March, again, to highlight the visibility. So we've got a big feature on our website. We're doing posts. These flyers are at our visitor center. So basically, by the collaboration is stronger together than each would be. So I would really encourage you all, where you can, and I mean, if you can just partner with another museum, or partner doesn't have to be with another museum, some other type of make it a product. Hang your hat on some anniversary. You know, give it something that gives it a hook and makes it easier. It makes it a product to market above and beyond your own individual product. So you kind of get exposure for both. And together you're stronger. So I look at that. You hear a lot, and you see it so some days about tours. You know, like if somebody's interested in history, you want to make it easy to connect them to all the history museums in an area. You know, so when you bundle it together, again, it's great opportunities for social, the website, the visitor centers, that if you have this kind of a tour. So again, I really encourage the collaboration, because as a DMO, we can market that. We can market it, we can send it out to whether it's travel writers, you know, that it's a product to be marketed. And again, the collateral is very, very important. Make sure your visitor centers know if it's important to you. Make sure your visitor centers know about it. If it's an opening, it's an exhibit, you know, opening, it's a reception, etc. Just make sure you're looping them in. And this is just, I mean, I want to go, I'm shifting to advocacy here, just I want to be mindful of time. And this is, as we all know, and there's so many people in this room that are seasoned and know this, but I encountered some interesting statistics that I wanted to share, and it's, again, why we're up here Tourism Day, and it's the FaceTime with the leadership and educating them. That, and again, this is for somebody that's not like hardline one way or the other. You know, that they're either, if they're hardline against something, no matter what anybody says, they're not going to be convinced. But if they are, you know, open or don't really have a position, just visiting them, whether it's your legislator, whether it is your county or city commission, and even the DMO, make sure you know your executive director of your DMO, your marketing team, make sure they know you. FaceTime is key, because they say like more than 55%, if you're meeting with somebody face to face, they're going to totally be on board with what you're doing. So again, I mean, you know, everybody knows at the end of the day, it really is all about relationships. So when you put a face, you know, to a name, you know, and you're talking about things, you're likely to persuade them. Almost 45% with a personal call, again, and then 34% of folks are persuaded with a letter or an email. But I think what's also really important, whether it's a letter, an email, calls, and then even if your social media is nowadays a tremendous platform for dealing with leadership, again, and the DMOs, the power of the DMOs. But just make sure that you're not using identical messages. They can be similar, but just not the boilerplate ones where they will get dismissed. You know, so all around, there has to be some personalization. Make it personal to you. And as we all know, I mean, politics really is, it's all local. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. So whether it's here and then Melinda goes up to DC, I mean, it's again, we're constituents, they're constituents here. But again, I thought it was interesting on the numbers to really see, again, the value of the FaceTime, have them out to your property, your museum. And I know y'all are already doing this. I'm preaching to the choir probably. Again, I would just emphasize on this the power of like desk side visits. I think those are anytime you invite them to your place for any events. And again, I'm sure you all are doing this. Make sure you're also including the DMO. If you've got some event or something that's going on, make sure again you're reaching out to them, because again, like we did for the Grove opening, we had our agency out there. I mean, you figure this is a museum that's been, you know, in the works, being restored for 7 years. You know, this was a big day, you know. So again, there are things that you can do partnering with your DMO to help get the word out. And I know you all know this. I mean, nowadays, and I don't see it going away anytime soon, it's got to be the language of economic development, you know, and tourism. We've got to talk about jobs. We have to. How you create jobs, let them come see it, how your organization, museums help attract businesses. They help an organization, you know, whether it's retaining businesses, attract them. You serve so many, what is it, 3 million visitors a year or something, museums. It's probably higher now. But make sure, again, the children, the education part is really key. And I would say pick a few that are really your strength and nail talking points on them, that you're talking to everybody. And again, not just your local folks, but again, talk to your DMO, so you're part of the community, you're here to help, you know, whether it's summer camps right now or any of that, you know, make sure they know and make sure you have good solid points on that. And with that, I'm done.
Our next program is Effective Marketing Strategies for Large to Medium Institutions, and Amber O'Connell with the Tallahassee Museum is coming up to join us.
So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking about effective marketing strategies for large to medium institutions. Also, several of these strategies could apply to small institutions as well. We'll start off talking about what good marketing is not. So for the most part, good marketing is not about trying to convince people to purchase things that they do not need. It's not about trying to tell people, or it's not about trying to convince everyone to visit us, donate to us, or buy X from us. It's not about changing people's views or even creating demand. What marketing really does in the museum world is connect a visitor who's ready to experience or a donor who's ready to give with our program or project if it's suited to meet their needs. So we don't have to worry about selling to every single person that is in our community. It's not what it's about. So marketing is essentially about communicating your unique and valuable offerings in a way that's engaging and relevant to those who are ready to listen. That's all. As museums, our products include our exhibits, our memberships, our events, and our public programs, and our constituents have needs that relate to our products. For example, some of their needs include the need to see an interesting exhibit, or to learn something new, or to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. So we all offer something that our audience needs. Many times they just don't know about it yet. So we need to effectively let our potential audiences know what we're doing, and what great things that we have going on, but we need to be sure that we're informing them in an engaging and relevant way. I know, Stephen, you use that word a lot. Make sure that your content is relevant and engaging. So now that we've taken the pressure off of ourselves to convince everyone in the world to visit us, let's talk about some effective marketing strategies to promote our valuable offerings. So the first strategy deals with our audience. Keep calm. Being all things to all people is a marketing dead end. So with the first strategy, we need to know exactly who our audience is. Your audience is those who know and like you. Be sure to distinguish this group from the audience that you would like to have. So there is a huge difference between your actual audience and your potential audience. And this doesn't mean that we don't have the potential to expand our audience, but we just need to make sure that we're not spending so much of our resources trying to attract potential audiences that we stop effectively communicating and catering to our current audience. Recognize that other institutions in your community are both collaborators and competitors. Be sure to differentiate your offerings from theirs and don't be a Me Too institution. Be sure. I think that the Grove and the March with Museums, this was a great example of collaborating with other museums, and every museum had a presence at the opening, and every museum offered different offerings to their audiences. So I think that was a good example of this. You want to work with your competitors as much as possible, since all ships do rise with the tide, but also recognize that you need to occupy a unique space in the hearts and minds of your constituents. This is especially true if there's a dominant player, but it is not necessarily your museum. And going along with this strategy is about finding your brand sweet spot. I know most of you have probably seen a Venn diagram and been through this type of exercise, but I think it's important when you're doing your strategic planning with your staff once a year or so to sit down and remind yourselves, what is it about your institution that makes you different? So sitting down and coming up with a list of things about your audience that they need, their interests, what they value, and also what unique attributes that your brand has. What is it that your organization is good at, and what are you doing differently that no other institution in your community does? The overlap of these two circles is your sweet spot, and that's this will help you. This exercise will help your staff, your marketing team, identify and remember what makes you different from your competitors. Be sure what you are doing as an institution appeals to what your audience values. No amount of marketing is going to make your exhibits, your programs, your fundraisers interesting to your audience. They are not actually interested in it. Like I said, I like Venn diagrams. Here's another. In the left circle are all the possible museum offerings imaginable that we come up with in our brainstorming meetings, or if we go to a marketing conference and we come back energized and motivated, and we sit down with our colleagues and we talk about all of these possible ideas that we should be doing. That represents the left circle, and the right circle is what your audience is interested in and what they value. And so we need to be sure that we are only doing things that are relevant to them. I bet every museum director or marketing manager can think back to one program or event that was promoted exceptionally well, but only to have an embarrassing low turnout. And you go back and you look at your marketing efforts and you see that your strategy was very effective. You did used all of the marketing strategies that you do in your successful programs, but people just weren't interested. So we need to be careful that we don't try to be all things to everyone. Be sure all of your marketing efforts have a strong call to action. Many times our marketing efforts don't have any call to action. I see things all the time, I mean, even things that we do sometimes. What we do here is we have a checklist before things go out the door. And you'd be surprised how many times that you spend so much time being creative and coming up with a new strategy for a new ad, and then it has no call to action. It's very important that you suggest the next step for your interested users. So everywhere, on your website, in your blog post, in your direct mail. It could be click here to register or subscribe to our newsletter or another creative and interesting call to action. But there should always be an opportunity for those who want to know more to further their relationship with your institution. I'm going to skip that slide. Spread your dollars over different media channels. Don't put all your money into one basket. Think about multiple complementary approaches to get your message across. Find out how your audience gets their information and talk to them there. Are they using social media? Are they looking at billboards and signs? To the extent that you can determine your audience's behaviors, go where they are, and rather than expecting them to come to you. you can find out this information very easily through online surveys. I know we work with Visit Tallahassee to do online surveys. We also still do paper surveys here, and they work very well. When I first came on board and Russell told me we were using paper surveys, I said, no, come on, we need to move to online. So we do both now because people will take those surveys, and they're 3 pages long, and they will mail them back, and we don't offer any incentives. People usually really do like to help you, become better. You can also find out where your audience is by training your visitor services staff to talk to people as they come in. Where are you from? How did you hear about us? And then the marketing person can, have weekly conversations with them, or they can the visitor services team can keep a kind of tally on where they're hearing visitors saying that they're getting our information. Another thing I saw someone do once, forget which event it was, but they had, it was a large event. They didn't usually do this event every weekend, but it was a large event, and they had a dry erase board at the entrance, and they had a huge turnout, so the line was very long, so as people were waiting in line, the marketing person had listed all of the various channels that they had promoted this event: Facebook, newspaper ad, direct mail piece. And so while people were waiting in line, they would just go up and put a tally mark, and I took a picture of it. I couldn't find it for this presentation. It was a couple years ago, but I thought that's very genius, and talked about doing that for some of our events. Let's see. So this pie chart roughly shows how we plan to spend this year's budget. Social media by far works best for us, primarily Facebook and YouTube, and also Instagram. But Russell would kill me if I spent 100% of our marketing dollars on social media. So be sure that you have a good marketing mix, and it's not wise to spend all of your dollars in one place. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this. How I plan our budget every year, I'm looking at how our local DMO is spending their money. I'm looking at how Visit Florida is spending their money, and any other nonprofits that I follow on social media. Sometimes they'll publicly put their marketing plans out there. Also, just following trends and really studying closely how you did, with specific marketing strategies, and tweaking those, and also your visitor surveys. I mean, it's really plain right there in your visitor surveys to see where people are hearing from you. But yeah, planning, spreading marketing dollars, it's really an art and a science to maximize your marketing dollars, and there's just no one size fits all. Relating to spreading your marketing dollars, take calculated risk and try things that you haven't tried before. You should never stop learning and experimenting. Stay on top of the latest trends. New ways to engage with people are always being devised. So allocate your budget to trying some of these new ways. When Twitter and Instagram, in the last couple of years, both Twitter and Instagram have allowed you to start advertising to your audience there. We tried that. Instagram worked really well for us. So we kept it in our marketing mix. So keep the ones that work well for your institution and your marketing plan. And in the long run, spending money on experimentation will save you money and possibly make your institution some extra money. So we actually did this with Facebook. 4 years ago, Facebook was less than 1% of our marketing budget. So we experimented with it in our fall event season of 2014. And it set some record attendance numbers for those events. So Facebook went from 1% to 20%. Not immediately, but it's grown over the last 4 years, and it's still growing in our budget. So, and this isn't really a risk yet, but if you haven't tried video, make it a goal to do this year. Videos are one of the most effective tools that you can use in a marketing campaign. You can either create them in-house or outsource them to a company. Joel Silver with Silver Productions does a lot of our videos, but we also use our phones and do several in-house. So that was our 30-second version. We actually have a 15-second, a 30-second, and a minute and a half. And we use this video on Facebook. We use it on YouTube. We use it in the airport. We use it in our local movie theaters, the different links of the video. So over the last year, this video has reached several 100,000 people between those 4 channels. And nobody really reads that much anymore. They skim through content and pick out the most important parts, which is why video marketing can deliver such impressive returns. This isn't really a risk either, but it's a new idea to try if you haven't. Contest on social media. My favorite is Like It, Share It, Win It on Facebook. As you can see here, now we did an ad to boost this video, and our ad reached 156,000 people, but organically we reached 90,000 people from people liking it. Their friends were able to see them like it, and obviously through sharing it. I wouldn't do this more than once a month, but think of the different programs you can give away: tickets, general museum admission. You can, if you want to boost awareness for a particular program, maybe in your education department, you can do it this way. We do this a lot with actually every single fundraising event that we do a Like It, Share It, Win It contest, and then also with Treated Tree Adventures. So getting towards the end here, be sure to carefully evaluate all of your marketing efforts, determine what's worked well and with what group of constituents, take surveys, ask questions. Obviously, this information is a gold mine and can help you with that, marketing plan and spreading your dollars. I personally try to live by the saying that if you can't measure it, don't do it. It's obviously really hard to evaluate your marketing efforts if you choose to do strategies that you cannot measure. So find ways of tracking your marketing whenever possible. Like we talked about earlier, that's through surveys or through conversations that your visitor services folks are having with visitors. You can even do focus groups if you have the time and resources. So in summary, no one buys what your museum sells. They buy what is of value to them. The most effective marketing strategies are those that are directed to a specific audience, focused on key benefits, and have a strong call to action, and obviously are based on the audience interest.
Okay, next we have Anissa Ford with Gadsden Arts Center, who's going to be speaking for small budget, small museums. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel kind of a little different. I'm from a small museum, and I'm, as you might be able to see from my next slide, I am the education director. I'm not even a marketing person. But we are a very small museum. We actually have added "and museum" to our name because last year we got accredited by the American Alliance of Museums. Yay! And while our executive director, Grace Robinson, does most of our marketing because we are small, we all wear many hats, and so I also do some of the things. Just a little bit about us. So what I'm gonna talk about today is a little more of kind of a case study. I'm hoping there'll be maybe small tips that small museums can take away because our other speakers have given us so much information that's very broad and have already covered a lot of things that I'll mention. But this is kind of what we do and how we take these big ideas and approach them in a very small budget. We have 3 full-time staff members, and actually right now we have 2 because our curator is on maternity leave. So very small museum, also 3 part-time staff members, but they have very specific jobs: museum shop, bookkeeping, and our newest is a volunteer coordinator that is great, so we turned her into a museum assistant as well. Our annual budget is $376,000 approximately, and so that's small for us. I know there are some small museums that are maybe 10 staff members, but that's a huge museum compared to what I'm used to working with. And Grace, our executive director, came to the museum in 2005, and she was the only staff member in 2005. And so when I came in 2012, our budget was under $300,000, and so it's grown very slowly over time to where we are today. But we work with over 100 volunteers annually, 5 weekly volunteers who come in and do a variety of things, from people who are trained to work in our database, which is extremely helpful, to people who hate computers and just water the plants and sweep the leaves for us. We have at least 8 working committees, so not all of the marketing is even done by the staff. We have volunteer working committees that help us do a lot of our programs as well. And as far as what we do with all of these people and all this help, we put on 4 major exhibitions every year. Our current exhibition is called Found Southern Vernacular Art and Cheesebend Quilts, and it closes next Saturday the 25th. So all y'all in Tallahassee, if you're here for spring break, I encourage you to see it. And then additional galleries with local artist work. And one thing that we do is an annual exhibition called Art in Gadsden, and that's how we were kind of founded. It's a juried exhibition that invites artists living within 200 miles of our museum to enter into that show. And you know, to do what we do, we have to work with a variety of marketing resources, and we kind of work with what there is available to the best that we can, and sometimes things will fall to the side, and sometimes things will pick up. Let's see. But what we do, it seems to be working. This is our visitor origin sheet. At our sign-in book, we asked for where people are traveling from to come and see us. The other day, there was a couple in from Australia, which was exciting. We have visitors from across Florida, Georgia, Arizona, Texas, Michigan, Wisconsin, Tennessee, all the way to England. So we have visitors from around the country and the world, and we really have a broad reach that we work hard for. So these are some of our recurring marketing efforts. These are the things we do to help get people into the museum, to help communicate what we're doing to the public, how we get people in the door, how we tell them about our exhibitions, and you can see, use a variety of methods that all of our previous presenters have talked about. And we're constantly evaluating these. You know, one thing might change and might get shifted as the trends change, as people say. But for us, what we start with in our marketing is sustaining the relationships with the people who know about us already. Those people, they already know that you exist. They've given you your email address. They're members, and you want them to come back. You want them to invite their friends. The couple that came from Australia, that was a member's friend. So investing in those people who are already interested, that are our perfect sweet spot in Amber's Venn diagram, working with those people are a really great place to start. And we do that by an e-newsletter, which we use MailChimp. We stopped using Constant Contact. I don't know if anyone was using Constant Contact still, but it got really buggy for us, so we shifted to MailChimp. And this is our primary newsletter. We used to do a print newsletter, like a quarterly one, and it got very costly on staff time and on printing and mailing costs. So we actually have taken away doing our printed quarterly letter. That's where we used to list all of our new members and annual fund donors, and it ended up just being a really big drain on staff time for something that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily look at. We do still send out direct mail like our exhibition invitations, so 4 times a year they still get to hear about what exhibits are coming up. But we went away with those print newsletter. But the funny thing is we still got 10 or 11 people who are a part of our membership who don't have an email address. So we actually print those. We print the e-newsletter. They've said, yep, keep sending it to me. And once a month, we print 11 people our e-newsletter and mail it to them. And thanks to a volunteer, that takes no staff time. So it's an extra step that we take for those 11 people, but it's worth it. And that's how they get to see what's coming up. And that's a kind of snippet of our e-newsletter. We focus on images. We have a calendar that we always keep at the top of ours that just lists what is coming up now. A lot of people use those links. And then every article that we do, which is very, very short, very much focused, no more than like 3 or 4 sentences, 2 is preferable, always has a link on it, always has an action to contact us, to register, read more about the exhibition, something like that. And for our e-newsletters through MailChimp, we are very selective about how many we send. We only do the once-a-month e-newsletter, and then some special notices like our gala, our camp programs and our workshops, and those go usually to general membership, but also we do a second one that is targeted specifically to people who are interested in camps and workshop programs, so you don't, mostly so we don't flood people's inboxes. I know personally I've unsubscribed from Gap emails because they send me an email once a month, or I've unsubscribed from tons of emails because they send me them too often. So we're very selective about how many emails we send so that way people keep opening them, and we have a very high open rate because of that. And our e-newsletter is also free to sign up, so you don't have to be a member of our museum to get our e-newsletter because it doesn't cost us anything. Although contacts eventually do start costing money. I think we're over 2,000 contacts right now in our e-newsletter, which I'm sure is small compared to a lot of other museums. But for us, that's awesome. And as your number of contacts increases, the cost increases, but there are some lower levels where it's free even to send these emails, so it's great to use these products. We also have increased our visitor sign-ins recently. This little sign-in sheet that we have, that's our visitor sign-in sheet where we just ask for their name and where they're from and their email address, and then we always talk with our visitors as well. And we recently added a $5 suggested admission, and we put a lot of emphasis on having a visitor services person at the front desk every day. As we're a small staff, you know, it's hard for us to sit at the front desk every day and greet every visitor because then you would get nothing done. So we've encouraged more volunteers to do that, and by having, instead of just a $1 suggested admission on the side, by having a person asking for that suggested admission, we've increased the number of visitor feedback that we get, so that's been very helpful for us. As I said, our direct mail includes exhibition invitations, gala invitations, and those only go to members, so that's kind of part of that budget is that the members help pay for our direct mails. But we also save on our direct mails a lot by designing inexpensively. We very rarely use bleeds. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people do use them, and I personally love them. I would prefer to have them if I could because they look so pretty, but they're an extra step. That's something that raises your costs when you're working with a printer. So for us, I see we've got flyers that are not bleeds, so that's always nice. But, you know, high-quality paper is still important, but that bleed, that extra cut that they have to make on your printing can really increase your cost. And we also work with a local print and copy shop, and that works well for us as well. Web calendaring is an exhausting task. It is free, but it is extremely time consuming. So we have one trained volunteer who works every Friday for 2 hours, and all she does is web calendaring. That's all she does. So a lot of them have forms where you have to, you know, pick the date, and you can sometimes copy and paste just descriptions, but they're always just slightly different enough. So having someone who is trained and is able to do that is an excellent way to get the word out there. And a lot of those are connected to print-based calendars, which is how maybe the newspaper comes and contacts you. They say, oh, I see you have an event coming up that you put on our calendar. So then they will come and do a feature on you possibly. And then our regular press releases that we send out. It is important to have relationships with local editors if you expect them to ever get published. Again, making those personal connections are important. Our website is extremely simple. I don't know if anyone has been to gadsdenarts.org, but you are welcome to go to gadsdenarts.org and look at our website. It's very simple. We've got about 6 pages, and all of our staff can update it. So as a small museum, I update my education page, and currently I do our curators' exhibition pages as well. The director updates our most recent visitors and things like that. So all of our staff are actually trained in updating their specific pages of our website. And I really like that you had said something about collaborators and competitors, because I have something about that as well. Because we're in Quincy, we're about a 30-minute drive probably from here, might be 40 minutes from here because we're so far south. But it's a 20-minute drive from my house. And so we have to try very hard not to compete with other events. First Friday is a really great event where everybody works together in First Friday in Railroad Square. But for us, we could never have an exhibition opening on that night. Market it as much as we can. It's competition. People would not necessarily make the drive from Railroad Square to Quincy. So we work very hard to not compete, but then to also work with organizations when it makes sense for local festivals and things like that, and when it is mission-based. I was going to talk about March of Museums and how great I thought that was. So I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but special requests that you can do to get yourself featured can only really happen if you have relationships with people. But locally, we've got the Council on Culture and Arts, and they're a great organization that promotes arts and cultural organizations here. And so having a relationship with these types of organizations can be very helpful for you, as well as radio and TV. Dan McDonald has the Cultural Notes program, and he's got a great voice, and he's just always fun to talk to. So having these special requests are important as well. And when I think about marketing for our museum, I kind of mostly think about networking and connecting everyone together. So for apparently I put that on there twice. So word of mouth is probably one of the biggest ways that we get visitors. This is actually an exhibition that we did where we were talking with a lot of our members, and we noticed that everybody had these really cool collections at home. There was so-and-so's got a painting by Berggraf, and so-and-so's got a painting by Messersmith, and there's some of these cool artists that you notice, and then, oh, so-and-so's got a Picasso painting. And so what we decided to do was an exhibition that was both a beautiful exhibition and it was kind of a marketing exhibition because it was called Collector's Choice. So we worked with all these local collectors who invited their friends to the opening. They were able to see their work in a museum, and you could see this is a collector with her work and a friend that she brought taking a picture of her. So it's really this one-to-one networking that happens. Direct outreach that we do includes time-consuming work like phone calls. We do that by volunteers, and I also do that. Tours are by far one of my favorite things to do, and so I spend a decent amount of time on the phone calling up different senior groups, different book clubs and church groups and retirement communities just to get them to come in, and that kind of phone call once a quarter to let them know that our exhibitions have changed and we have this new exhibit and I hope you come and tour really increases the number of people that come and talk about the art with me, which is just enjoyable for me. And then when we do those tours, we are fortunate enough to have a space that we can host meetings as well. So we'll work with Kiwanis groups and Rotaries, and we give them a tour of the exhibition, and then also they can have their meeting in our space for free, and we set it up, and they can have a luncheon catered in there. And so that's another way of people who maybe wouldn't have necessarily come to the museum or heard about us. They have their meetings, and often they let us be a guest presenter at those meetings. And community events, as I said, and peer networking. So hi, I am here today. This is me, marketing. Things like this, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the FSU Career Center, anything like that where you can network with your peers as well is always a great marketing opportunity. So as a small museum, we don't do too much paid advertising. We use it as a way to reach new audiences. We also use it as a way to continue our relationship with the audiences we have. But as everyone has said, use what works for you. Use what works for your audiences. For us, Twitter has never been something that we've felt like we need to use. A lot of our audience is on Facebook, and they're pretty active on Facebook, so that is what we tend to use any of our social media budget on. And the great thing about Facebook is that it's adjustable. You can spend as little or as much as you want. So for a small museum, it is particularly important to have that ability. You can adjust the scope. You can adjust what cities and audiences and keywords you're boosting your posts or you're advertising with. So that is especially useful for us. Our general event ads or general organizational ads we all use, just a lot of those just to drive traffic to our website. As I said, COCA is a great resource to list for Tallahassee to list your event, and then you can also do paid ads in those types of organizations. And for us, I know this sounds really obvious, but we have to make sure that you have to budget for it. As a small museum, you have to budget for social media. You have to budget for your advertising and see how much you will be able to do. But you can also find specific grants for it from your local tourism organizations. You can also build marketing into another general support grant. We got a Florida Humanities Council grant where we just kind of built it into that. And that's another extra way to kind of reach new audiences and grow. But one of the most important things about those specific grants, like our Tourist Development Council that we work with quite often, is that we go back and prove that the support is working. We show the impact. Every year, Grace, our director, asks to be put on the Tourism Development Council's agenda, and she gives a very visual presentation about what we have done with their money in the last year. And as soon as that's over, she sends them the request for the next year. And it's been great for us in so much that we no longer actually have to go through the general grant process. We are a line item now because we have this established record of years and years and years of proving our impact. But we continue to go back and show them the impact of their dollars on our organization. And that That's all I have. I kept it nice and short and simple. So if anyone has any questions, do you want me to ask while I'm up here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If anyone has specific questions while I'm up here, but also for any of the panelists. Question was if I didn't say anything about members, and of course, members are a huge part of our marketing. So a lot of our direct mail things only go to members, and we do a lot of programs to, make sure you renew your membership. How big? Let's see. It's probably around 1,000. I can't recall the exact number because I'm the education director. The question was what our visitation was, and we have about 20,000 visitors per year. It fluctuates depending on the exhibition. Like a year like last year, we had a Dean Mitchell exhibition, we had a Lester Richardson exhibition. This year, we've got the Found exhibition. We're also going to have Highwaymen in July, so it'll probably be more these couple of years. Plus, we had accreditation last year, so exciting. But Quincy is a very small town, so we're excited for that, even though it's a small number. Okay, so this question was about our $5 suggested admission, and so far, no one has said anything negative. We're very casual about it right now. When visitors come in, we have a script that's just kind of, we do have a $5 suggested admission. If you'd like to leave a donation in the box, as always, we appreciate your support. So it's very flexible. Some people leave more than that, which is awesome. But before, we just kind of had a sign for it because we really didn't want to have that be a barrier to anyone visiting our museum. We always wanted to have free admission, which is why it's still suggested admission. It's just a donation. So far, no. But it's only been about 2 months. But we've already greatly increased our admission income and have gotten a lot more visitor feedback, so it's been great for us.
So most people do put money in there?
Yes, most people do put money in. Occasionally people are like, okay, and then they walk by. But for the most part, yeah, they're like, for the reason we added it was that a lot of people expect that. A lot of cultural travelers expect to have that. We mostly do it for our local community, and members are always free, and children are always free. So we never want admission to be we don't want people not to come because of admission. So.
When marketing and social media is a collaborative effort, how do y'all coordinate to make sure there's no double posting or to make sure everyone's on board with the same kind of direction that you're taking it?
For social media? So social media for us is fairly, I don't want to say it's low on the list of priorities, but because we're so small in staff, especially right now when a third of our staff is out, it's a third of our staff when a person is gone. If I don't have time for a Facebook post this week, nobody's going to be mad at me. But it does go through one person, which is me, to the actual posting. So if someone has a post they're interested in showing, and we do more coordinated things. When we have art in Gadsden, we try and do a post on every artist from the exhibition. So over the 3 or 4 months of the show, we're talking about like 70 artists. So we'll do a lot more for things like that. It's just when we have the time. Like right now, not so much.
For those online, if you do have questions, go ahead and submit those now. And for in the room, we have the other 3 speakers. If anybody has questions for those speakers, I can bring them back up to answer those questions as well. So you just want to raise your hand if you have a question on the social media or the CDBs or the large to medium museums.
I just have a comment going back to Anissa's presentation and talking about networking, and that being here today is networking and marketing and promoting. And we were talking earlier about the fact that we haven't gotten a lot of proposals yet for the fan conference. They will come. But I am always so impressed that the Gadsden Art Center and Museum always has presentations at fan conferences. Angie was here earlier this morning, the curator to be on the board of FAM. A museum with 3 staff members has a statewide presence and a statewide impact. Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think, a role model for those of us who may be a lot bigger, but maybe we're not doing what we should be doing.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to thank our speakers. I think we were really lucky to get all of you here today to talk to us. We really appreciate all the information that you've provided.